So I'll be honest, at the time of this recording, I have not caught up to the entirety of Shaman King 2021. I just watched up till episode 33, and I also haven't been reading the manga for a long time, and I probably never will again. So the furthest I've gotten into the series, again at the time of recording, is the end of the Osa Resin Arc in the anime. Shaman King 2021 was genuinely getting better. I legitimately thought that the show was on an upward swing. The last batch of episodes were genuinely pretty good, setting up things for later, making me care for characters I never thought that I would, and alright, I'm done with this. I didn't like the recent few episodes of the show that I watched. The first arc to talk about is Wren's training arc. It starts out on a pretty cool note, actually. Mikihisa Asakura, Yo's father, wants to train Wren and asks for the Tao family's permission. Tao En objects and gets the shit kicked out of him. Then Mikihisa moves on to beat the shit out of his son in an honestly pretty cool fight that actually conveys a sense of movement. The line background is still there, but at least the characters are moving over them. I kind of like what happens next too. Some of Hao's goons attack Wren while he's still recovering from his brutal battle against Mikihisa, and although he seems like he has the upper hand, he's distracted by the fact that he killed the brother of one of the patch officials. He loses the battle because he felt guilty about that, and it shows that he's grown a conscience, and while I didn't need Yo spelling that out for me later, I appreciated the moment. The show also gave a pretty cool moment to Horohoro and Chocolove, defending Wren after he was critically injured. However, nothing much really happens in the next few episodes after this. See, this fight gets wrapped up pretty quickly because Yo showed up and annihilates these guys, so the majority of this episode and the one after is spent on Anna, Tamao, and June defending two children from these three girls. And there's seriously nothing interesting to say about this fight. Most of it is just talking, interrupted occasionally by a few still frames of characters that are supposed to be moving, but before anything gets going, it reverts back to talking. Okay, seriously, this is the last time I'm gonna make fun of it, but aside from a couple of characters like Lizurg, oh, and by the way, to the guy who said that I was pronouncing that wrong, Lizurg, hope you're happy. The overall production value of the show has not improved. It's still a poorly animated show with some standout moments for this show. Hell, even the backgrounds are starting to look weird now. Anyways, there's a much more interesting conflict going on in the background centering around Yo dropping out of the shaman fight, but we barely focus on that. This fight only serves the purpose of introducing Mikihisa's teammates and establishing a connection between them and Chocolove maybe, still not sure about that. But they didn't have to waste this much time on a fight that amounts to pretty much nothing. The whole time I was wondering why Anna didn't just completely destroy these three. It would have been a lot faster, and that might have actually made me care about her character and like her more in this version, but instead of that, we get a shipping moment between June and Pai Long. Not sure how to feel about that. It's weird that they would make this a blatant ship considering the nature of their relationship, but okay, I guess. Now, there were some scenes in the original adaptation where you could maybe say there was something, but nothing too explicit. And the ending for this fight is weird too. Anna leaves to go check up on Yo, meaning Tamao and June have to fight alone. They get taken out because they suck, which is then followed up by some characterization for their assailants, which comes out of nowhere and doesn't make me care about them at all. Then Mikihisa shows up in his underwear to save the day, looking like a huge fucking creep. I know they play that off as a joke in the beginning, but there are moments where I'm supposed to take him seriously and I just can't, especially when he says this line and does this face. It's just fucking creepy, and I don't mean creepy in a good way, like I'm unsettled by his power. This just makes him look like a pedo. The arc ends with the villains all retreating, the X-Laws taking care of Wren to make sure he recovers, and Yo dropping out of the shaman fight in order to gain the X-Laws' cooperation, which is something that I like. It was a very Yo thing to do. It was something that I could see his character doing. So yeah, this arc starts off well, but gets boring towards the end. Now we move on to the Osa Resin arc, and I'd say that it has a strong beginning too. It starts off with some intrigue, a flash to an image in the past as Anna begins to recount the tale. I also really like the idea behind this arc. Showing us how Yo and Anna met would serve as a good way to get the audience more invested in their relationship, and maybe both of them as characters. But unfortunately, I didn't like how it was told. One problem with this arc for me was Yo. I talked about how Yo was starting to act more in line with his character description recently in the 2021 anime, but that all flies out the window during this arc. For whatever reason, Yo becomes an excitable, perky, and whiny ball of energy during this whole thing. Almost every other line of his is delivered by his voice actor screaming. I give a pass to these two moments where he he's running away from spirits, because in this flashback he's inexperienced and he's not yet used to things like this. But when he's gushing about how much he loves trains, or when he's yelling about being confused in bed or at the convenience store with Anna, I'm sorry, these just aren't things that I can see Yo as a character doing. And it gets annoying really fast. I never thought the day would come when I would compare Yo to a character like Zenitsu, but there you go, I guess. I also think that Anna was slightly out of character here too. She doesn't seem like the type of girl to be all blushy and pout when someone says something embarrassing. This arc also contains some continuity issues. This doesn't reflect the state of their relationship at the start of the show. When Anna is first introduced, Yo is terrified of her because he thinks she's crazy. But apparently when they first met, he was deeply in love with her to the point where even when he got slapped, he reacted like this. And at the end of the arc, they remain very friendly towards each other, unless they met at some other point after this. But even then, I don't think anything she would do could change Yo's opinion of her that drastically. Nothing that Anna does in this flashback would warrant the kind of reaction that Yo had to seeing her in episode 3. This isn't that big of a problem though. No, the biggest problem with this arc is that it feels incredibly forced, and a lot of people are probably gonna say that Anna and Yo's relationship in this show is much better because of this arc, and while I appreciate the concept behind it, it's severely lacking in any real chemistry between Anna and Yo. Yes, there was no flashback like this in the original show, but I'd argue that it didn't need one. Their chemistry was natural, it was organic. You could see how their relationship worked with your own eyes. It genuinely felt like they cared for each other. Even if Anna was a strict trainer, it was clear to see that she genuinely loved Yo. And in the 2021 version, I just don't buy it. Even after the arc is finished, I don't have a clear understanding of why Anna likes Yo. He doesn't do much for her, and going from a hostile relationship to a romance in the span of one episode doesn't do this plot element any favors. None of the things that Yo does could be considered impactful to Anna because the show does a terrible job of portraying it in that kind of way. Let's take the scene where Anna decides to go out with Yo to the shrine. On its own, it looks like a girl finally opening up thanks to the help of the guy she likes, where she's finally compelled to go outside even though she hates it so much. But when combined with the rest of the arc, where we see that Anna doesn't have any trouble going outside at all, it doesn't work. It doesn't feel like Yo is responsible for her sudden change in behavior. And as a result of the lackluster foundation for their romance, none of the romantic scenes between them feel natural either, leading to uninteresting and forced interactions. Oh, sounds just like Anna, clever. I fucking hate anime. Not really, all you did was get punched by that Asian guy, took a bath, slept. Now you're watching TV, saw those kids playing fucking Beyblade. Yeah, cause you just slapped someone. Fucking moron. This is why I don't find the relationship cute. I don't get invested in her getting kidnapped and Yo trying his best to save her. Why did they animate it like this? It looks like a comedic moment where the main character is running too fast, so they slip in an over-the-top way. Even though it's supposed to be emotional, I can't help but just chuckle a bit. I just can't take this arc seriously, which is why I don't think it's adorable when Anna declares her love for Yo or when she blushes after reading his mind. Which, yeah, she can read minds, even though there was no foreshadowing for it in the previous episodes. On top of all that, this arc just feels poorly thought out in general, to the point where the first episode of this arc doesn't seem to fit together with the rest. It has scenes that directly contradict the other 3 episodes, all for the sake of a red herring. For example, in the second episode of this arc, it's revealed that Anna hates going outside because doing this causes her to unleash powerful demons, yet the first thing we see her do is walk outside running errands like it's no big deal. She does this because Yo's grandmother asked her to, but I don't think all of the convincing in the world would make a girl this troubled think to herself, yeah, sure, I'll completely forget about the demonic creatures that'll be unleashed if I go outside and shop for some stuff. These points might sound like they're nitpicks, but they're an essential part in Anna's character and her development. Again, in the second episode, it's revealed that Anna didn't want Yo to get chummy with her because she didn't want him getting hurt due to her strange and unique problems. Yet in episode 1, while she did discourage him from getting closer to her, she did it in the most mean-spirited way possible, calling him a pathetic man, making it clear that this scene was meant to be taken as her assessing her soon-to-be fiancé. To take this even further, the scene where Yo is being chased by a blue spirit with context tells us that Anna let a demon run free because of her issues, but taken on its own, there's no reason to believe that. If that's the case, why would she have to hide? Why wouldn't she try to help? Kinda like what she did later on anyway? Bringing this example up again, in the 3rd episode, Anna and Yo decide to go on a walk to the shrine, and Yo's grandma acts as if this is a huge step for her, like she's finally opening up, but when we've seen her getting out of the house twice in the last 2 episodes without Yo's help, it comes off as something she could have done in the first place without any influence from the person who apparently shifted her perspective. It also has contradictory scenes relating to another incredibly important character, Mune, a cat spirit guy who's worked for the Asakuras for generations, and I have to say, the idea behind this character is a pretty cool one. Catman, who's related to Hao and responsible for his death before he got reincarnated, but the scene that I was referring to was this one. When Yo is being chased by this blue spirit, Mune saves him by using his sword technique, which wouldn't be bad if he didn't later imply that this technique is sort of like a last resort that he just used on a random blue guy who is nowhere near as threatening as this guy. It's fucking weird. Anyways, my thoughts on Mune as a character, well, I didn't really like him either. The idea behind him is cool, but the revelations about Hao that his character brought to light kind of ruins the personality quirks of Hao as a villain. I don't think for even a second that this is the extent to Hao's character in the manga, but essentially what this arc tells us about him is that he's being possessed by a demon, and that actually he's a kind-hearted person who doesn't deserve any blame for his actions. That, and you can hold me to this, is the lamest motivation for a character being evil. I really don't care if this was in the manga or not. I don't like it when a villain gets this kind of characterization, because while I'm all for a villain having sympathetic qualities and understandable motivations, they're ultimately still supposed to be the villain. They can't just be absolved of all blame. They are still the bad guy, the guy who is supposed to be wrong. It just feels like such a lazy cop-out. It's not even a good way to make a character sympathetic as much as it is an easy one. And Hao wasn't that deep of a character in the original Shaman King either, but his actions were at least his actions, and that was a part of the reason why he was such a compelling antagonist, and he also had an organic conflicting ideology with Yo, a connection to him outside of the fact that they're related by blood. Just like Yo, Hao struggled to find anybody who really understood him. People were afraid of him because of how powerful he was. He views the ordinary people who shunned him as something to get rid of and justifies his stance on getting rid of them by saying that they have no value, they're powerless, they pollute the earth. Everything about them means that they cannot coexist with shamans. He's so fascinated by Manta because of how close he is to Yo, whereas he could only tempt other shamans into working for him with his power. That's where Yo differs from him. He sees the best in everyone. He was able to make true friends, one of them being a human, as Hao likes to put it. And that kind of contrast works. It's a motivation that makes Hao more sympathetic without completely diluting all of his malice and responsibility. Mune also does this really annoying thing where he ends each episode by saying the title of the arc, which is Osa Resin Arc. I don't know what the point of this repetition is. It seems like the anime is just trying to be poetic, but failing. I mean, I know it's the title of the arc, but there's really no point to it. It's not like it's an established phrase or something. I tried looking for it online, and the only thing that popped up were Shaman King related searches, so why do this? And then there's his goodbye scene, which was, I didn't care for it. I didn't like Mune much. Instead of showing personality, his character was more there as a vehicle for delivering exposition to the audience, so I barely knew him, and Yo also barely knew him, so it's not like I can feel too sad for Yo, which even if they did have a long history together, Yo in this arc is just unbearable, and I'd probably find it hard to feel bad for him anyway. So yeah, the last 2 arcs, not that good in my opinion. It has a lot of problems common in the first part of the anime, which is disappointing since I was genuinely liking some of the more recent episodes. I hope it gets better, and this is just my opinion, so it's okay to like the show. Anyways, that's all I wanted to say, and thanks for watching.